Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the 2007 film There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood adds crude oil to an already volatile thematic mix of religion and capitalism, and it artfully delivers on the violent, bloody, messy affair its title promises. It's loosely based on Upton Sinclair's 1927 novel Oil, and it follows oil man Daniel Plainview, an avant-garde protagonist who seemingly transcends the bounds of good and evil. His chief source of conflict is Eli Sunday, the treacherous young pastor of the Church of the Third Revelation. He and Daniel spar both emotionally and physically for most of the film. My presentation will identify various tensions within Daniel's relationships, including how he wrestles with the dueling concepts of faith, family, and himself. Daniel's voice is the first one we hear in the film. He breaks the film's early silence with a booming proclamation that emulates the voice of God himself. If I say I'm an oil man, you will agree. Daniel derives a godlike power from his voice. His words act as a sort of gospel of manipulation. He understands the power of shaping his legend and presents the image of success. On the outside, Daniel drips with charm and good manners, but just under the skin, he's never more than 1 second away from eviscerating anyone who gets in his way. If Daniel seems to exude divine power, it can hardly be a coincidence that his very name bears biblical significance. The Hebrew name Daniel means judgment by God, or God is my judge. And incidentally, Eli Sunday's first name translates from the Hebrew to my God. It is as though these men were destined to clash against each other in a battle for superiority. Daniel's one honest impulse is a physical revulsion towards the Almighty and his spokespersons. Young and innocent looking, Eli easily fools the townsfolk into believing his spiritual shenanigans. Young writes, evil, especially when not scrutinized too closely, can be very attractive, and most of all, when it appears in an idealistic garb. Eli thinks he has the power of God on his side, but appears helpless against the wrath of Daniel. Daniel's adoptive son, H.W., thematically represents hope and family, and he is the only character who touches Daniel's heart. Like the baby Jesus, H.W. is brought to Daniel through Immaculate Conception. H.W. brings life to Daniel. Daniel often exploits the concept of family when he pitches his business. I am a family man. I run a family business. When he and H.W. find oil together, Daniel believes that he can have the two things he wants most: continued success in the oil business and the ability to share his discovery with his son, which will preserve his legacy. After a tragic accident, H.W. loses his hearing. Daniel's hope begins to fade when the image of his beautiful, perfect son shatters. Daniel shows us his true nature when he abandons H.W. to tend to his burning well. When his assistant asks if H.W. is all right, Daniel matter-of-factly replies, "No, he is not." As Daniel notices his assistant's concern, he says, "What are you looking so miserable about? There's a whole ocean of oil under our feet. No one can get at it except for me." While Daniel regrets his boy's injuries, he quickly and coldly adapts to the idea that sometimes blood must be shed to make one's dream a reality. The theme of family returns when a stranger named Henry appears and introduces himself as Daniel's long-lost half-brother. Daniel is so desperate for companionship that he forgets all about vetting Henry. In a drunken stupor, Henry unburdens himself of one of his deepest secrets, saying, "I have a competition in me. I want no one else to succeed. I hate most people." Both men share an obsession to do whatever is necessary to get ahead. Daniel's motivation is success. Henry is driven by failure. In this sense, the blood tie is an ideal that he assembles on his own terms, giving it legitimacy as long as it continues to produce. When Daniel finally grasps that Henry is a fraud, we have a front row seat to Daniel's devastation. Daniel murders Henry, who shares none of his blood, and is brought to tears as he pores over the diary of his real half-brother. On the surface, family is a construct that Daniel drilled for just like oil. He resolves never to let family get in the way of his success again. The idea of baptism arises 3 times in There Will Be Blood. The first happens when Daniel baptizes Eli in oil and sludge. The second comes when Henry and Daniel cool off in the turquoise waters of the Pacific in what feels like a rebirth. Plainview washes the oil and dirt that has sullied his soul and his relationships. We see that somehow he will be redeemed. But his peace is short-lived. When Henry's deception returns Daniel to his comfort zone, silent rage. In the third instance, Eli baptizes Daniel, forcing him to admit that he has abandoned his child. None of these baptisms will make any difference, so we might take this as more evidence of Daniel's triumph over religion. Although Daniel has realized his dream to earn enough money that he can get away from everyone, now it has become his nightmare. In a short, devastating interaction with H.W., Daniel personifies sheer hatred, spitting appalling barbaric insults at the boy he once loved. You're lower than a bastard. You have none of me in you. You're just a bastard from a basket. As H.W. leaves his father, he says, I thank God I have none of you in me. And with that, Daniel has cut off his last chance at family life. Later that evening, Daniel is visited by a ghost from the past in the form of Eli. Broke, Eli makes a business proposal to which Daniel agrees under one condition. I'd like you to tell me that you're a false prophet and that God is a superstition, and I want you to say it like it's your sermon. Daniel devastates Eli by telling him that he knew all along that there was not going to be a deal and that he has already taken the oil. He keeps the upper hand, saying, I drink your water every day. I drink it up. I drink the blood of lamb from Bandy's tract. Eli has not only been denied a potentially life-sustaining business opportunity, but his Christian dignity as well. Soon after, Daniel furiously bashes in Eli's head with a bowling pin. I'm finished, Daniel calls out. These 2 small words are pregnant with possibilities. Daniel could be saying that he has finished killing Eli and he needs his butler to clean up after him. He might also be indicating that his life is technically over because he's murdered Eli in front of a witness. Maybe even that he has accomplished his mission and he is ready to die. It seems like Daniel has triumphed over his hatred of religion, while at the same time acknowledging that he has lost his family in the process. At the beginning of the film, we can easily designate Eli as There Will Be Blood's antagonist. As it turns out, he and Daniel are far more similar than they appear, so much so, in fact, that they cannot be considered true rivals. Both Daniel and Eli are con men selling oil. One sells crude oil, the other sells snake oil. Neither man seems to be particularly bothered by the mayhem and death that surround them. In fact, quite the opposite. The destruction, loss, and injuries seen throughout the film is an integral part of all that is exceptional, energetic, life-affirming, and productive, not as antithetical to it. It is a means to greatness, progress, and flourishing. Daniel serves as a reflection of Daniel, and he recognizes that Eli is a wordsmith with a godlike ability to manipulate. He shares Daniel's quest for wealth, but unlike Daniel, Eli is unwilling to get his hands dirty in the process. They strive toward the same goal, but by using very different methods. Eli Sunday is an amateur in the scoundrel business, and as such, he is hardly a match for the vicious Daniel Plainview. Thank you so much.